Welcome back. This next segment, really important in our electoral politics. We now have a pretty good sense of where the 10 top Democratic candidates stand on climate change and how they all plan to fight it if elected. They were all part of a town hall on CNN last night where they fielded all sorts of questions and candidly tried very hard to outdo each other. So last night, the Trump campaign also watched this event on CNN, and when it was over, they sent out an email to supporters highlighting what they called eye-popping moments, such as Bernie Sanders says his climate plan means a lot of taxpayers out there who will be paying more in taxes. Joe Biden says the Green New Deal doesn't go too far and he is not opposed to it. Andrew Yang says he supports the Green New Deal's goal of banning commercial air travel. Elizabeth Warren says Americans need to make changes when it comes to using straws and eating cheeseburgers. Bernie Sanders says he would make the need to curb population growth a key feature of addressing the climate. Kamala Harris says the government must take action to reduce the amount of red meat Americans eat. Elizabeth Warren says she would push for a new tax on carbon. Joe Biden says he wants to shut down the 27% of American electricity generated by coal power, and so on. Here with us to talk about it tonight, Lanhee Chen returns to the broadcast, research fellow at the Hoover Institution and former presidential campaign advisor to both Marco Rubio and Mitt Romney. Lanhee, you are a name among the names we thought of to discuss this with. You know what's going to happen. This is as if someone dropped off at the DNC the Republicans' briefing book for the election campaign. When they get done with this, they will want every American to believe the Democrats are coming to your kitchen table. They want your straws. Give us that cheeseburger. They want the keys to your Ford F-150, and they're going to take your baby. Tell us what kind of strategy long-term this is for the Democrats.
Well, I think, Brian, what we're seeing now is that the Democrats are involved in this primary phase of the competition. And that will mean, of course, they're competing for a different set of voters than will be the case when we get to the general election. So for right now, the politics of being on the left, the progressive left, the far left when it comes to climate issues is advantageous. Now, the Republicans look at that and they sort of rub their hands together in glee because those positions that are taken in a primary tend to stick with candidates as they get into a general. You'll recall, for example, all the challenges that Mitt Romney had in 2012, a campaign I was a part of and intimately familiar with, all the challenges on immigration policy that came from the primary campaign carrying over to the general election. So the question now is, to what extent are the Democrats going to be able to continue to articulate these positions as we get into next June, July, when the nominee is going up against Donald Trump?
We can't help but notice the coverage on Fox News these last few nights. They're talking about the coming disarming of America. They're coming for your guns. They're telling their audience. Tonight, they had a graphic up behind the anchor that said dictators in training, and it showed some of the Democrats. The question to you is, how do you put the toothpaste back in the tube after running behind something like the New Deal to get those voters in New Hampshire, to get those voters in Iowa who come out and vote in Democratic primaries? Audience, oh, we're not really after your cheeseburgers, drinking straws, or your guns.
Yeah, I don't know that you can, Brian. I don't know that you can sort of completely disown what you say in a primary. You can try to nuance it, obviously. I think the interesting question is this. We are in a different era of politics now with the election of Donald Trump in 2016 and the kind of politician he is, where he's able essentially to make a statement and then declaratively say later on, well, I never made that statement, or in fact, just basically to ignore prior statements. The question is, do those rules apply to Democrats as well? Do those rules apply to anyone not named Donald Trump? Can, for example, Joe Biden get away with saying, well, I didn't really mean that, or I didn't really say that? You know, that'll be an interesting question as to see whether a Democrat or whether someone not named Donald Trump, as I said, is able to play by a different set of rules. The traditional rules in politics, as you know well, this is not something that you can live down. If you've said something previously in a primary, you've got to own it in a general.
Now, let me ask you this on the other side, and I take your point on the double standard of Joe Biden coverage. We see it here every night and day. Do you think it's always been my theory the issue of gay marriage was the fastest moving public issue I have ever witnessed, just because it caught on like a prairie fire and the people decided on their own? Do you think environment, do you think guns have the ability to spread like a fire through the public in a ways that we'll see our politicians catching up with?
Well, on the gun issue, I'm a little more skeptical because we have had incident after incident, tragedy after tragedy, and yet nothing seems to change. And here today, I am skeptical still that we'll see real action to address some of these issues. With respect to the environment, that's one of those issues that has been slow moving for a while, but as it's moved, increasingly the consensus has set in with respect to the human role in climate change. Now, the question then becomes, how do policymakers respond to that? I don't see either immigration or the environment moving in the same way as gay marriage did, in part because I'm not sure that people have personalized it enough yet. I think there's the potential there for gun violence, but even then I'm skeptical given what we've seen, even just over these last few weeks, particularly with respect to the gun issue. I don't see either having the same takeoff necessarily going forward.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.